Throughout history, fear, devotion, and superstition have driven humans to perform rituals that are almost too dark to imagine. Some protected communities, others appeased gods, and some secured the afterlife. Today, we're exploring 6 of the most horrifying rituals that were actually practiced across the world. Each one tells a story of belief, fear, and the lengths people would go to influence forces beyond their understanding. Viewer discretion is advised. 1. P-Ban rituals or foundation human sacrifices, Thailand. Our journey begins in Thailand, centuries ago, when communities lived in constant fear of natural disasters, disease, and malevolent spirits. Builders believed that no foundation alone could protect a structure from misfortune. To safeguard temples, bridges, and city gates, they performed the P-Ban ritual, a human sacrifice buried beneath the foundation. Victims were often prisoners, slaves, or people of low social standing. They were placed beneath pillars, walls, or key entryways, sometimes in specially prepared chambers beneath the stones. The belief was that their spirits would become eternal guardians of the structure, binding themselves to it in death. According to local traditions surrounding city pillar shrines, or Lak Muang, when a new pillar was erected, it was believed that a guardian spirit had to be manufactured by burying a human beneath the post. One version of the legend says that pregnant women were the preferred victims, as their spirits were thought to be especially powerful protectors of the land. While there is no clear contemporary document verifying these sacrifices, the belief persisted in folklore and was recorded by later writers. Villagers carried out these rituals with solemnity and fear. Every detail mattered. Offerings of food, incense, and symbolic items were sometimes included to honor the spirit. Without the sacrifice, it was thought the building could collapse, disasters could strike, or the land might be cursed. These rituals illustrate how deeply people believed the unseen world influenced their daily lives, and how far they would go to protect their communities. 2. Druidic sacrifices, ancient Celtic islands. Next, we move to ancient Celtic lands, Britain, Ireland, and Gaul, between 500 BC and AD 400. The Celts believed the gods controlled every aspect of life: the weather, harvests, health, and the outcomes of battles. To maintain balance and ensure divine favor, Druids, the spiritual leaders, performed human sacrifices. One of the most infamous rituals was the Wicker Man. A massive effigy, sometimes over 10 feet tall, was woven from reeds and timber. Victims, often prisoners or criminals, were placed inside the structure, which was then set ablaze. The flames were accompanied by chanting, drumming, and offerings of food or other sacred items. Other sacrifices took place in sacred rivers, lakes, or groves, where drowning or strangulation were used as offerings to the gods. These acts were seen as essential for the survival and prosperity of the tribe. The Celts believed that the balance between the human world and the divine had to be maintained through these sacrifices, and that the favor of the gods depended on it. 3. Sati, or widow burning, India. In India, devotion to family and spiritual beliefs sometimes took horrifying forms. For centuries, the practice of sati, or widow burning, was performed when a woman's husband died. It was believed that by joining her husband on his funeral pyre, the widow would honor him, purify her family's karma, and secure her own place in the afterlife. Victims were sometimes voluntary, but historical records show that many women were coerced by family, community, or societal expectation. The ritual involved the widow being placed on the funeral pyre with the deceased, surrounded by offerings and religious chants. Fire was then lit, completing the ceremony. British colonial accounts, local chronicles, and court records from the 17th to 19th centuries document numerous instances of sati, showing it was practiced in many regions of India. Over time, reformers spoke out against the ritual, and it was officially banned in 1829. Sati illustrates how cultural beliefs and devotion could override the instinct for survival. Families and communities believed that failure to perform the ritual might bring dishonor, misfortune, or spiritual imbalance. While shocking to modern audiences, it underscores the extreme ways humans have intertwined faith, fear, and social pressure in the name of the afterlife. 4. Heart extraction ritual. The Aztec Empire. In the heart of Mesoamerica, the Aztec Empire practiced one of the most visually and spiritually intense rituals in history. The Aztecs believed that human sacrifice was necessary to sustain the universe. Without these offerings, they feared the sun would not rise, the rains would fail, and life itself would collapse. Victims, often captured warriors, were brought to grand temples like the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. They were restrained on stone altars while priests performed the ritual of heart extraction. The victim was alive during this act because the Aztecs believed that only a living offering could provide the sun with the energy it needed to continue its journey across the sky. The heart was immediately offered to Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, sometimes placed on a sacred stone for ceremonial purposes. The ritual was accompanied by chanting, drumming, incense, and the presence of priests and noble spectators. For the Aztecs, this was not cruelty. It was seen as a sacred duty, an essential act of devotion, ensuring cosmic balance and the continuation of life itself. 5. Ghost weddings or spirit wedding. China. Next, we travel to China, where beliefs about the afterlife and ancestral spirits shaped some of the most unusual and eerie rituals in history. One such ritual is the ghost wedding, or Ming. These ceremonies were performed when a person died unmarried, as it was believed that an unmarried spirit could become restless, bring misfortune to the family, or haunt the living. In a ghost wedding, the deceased could be married to another deceased person, or in some cases, to a living person. When two deceased individuals were married, their coffins might be placed together, and offerings such as food, clothes, or symbolic objects were laid between them to honor the union. When a living person was involved, the ceremony was far more complex and serious. The living participant might be asked to perform symbolic rituals or present offerings to the deceased spouse, creating a spiritual connection while ensuring their own safety. This was not done lightly, as families believed the living and the dead had to follow strict ritual rules to avoid angering spirits. In extreme cases, historical records suggest that sacrifices, sometimes even human, were made to appease particularly vengeful spirits or ensure the wedding's success. The goal of the ritual was always to restore balance, to protect the living from curses or misfortune, and to help the deceased spirit find peace. While it may sound eerie to modern eyes, ghost weddings were considered a sacred responsibility, a way to maintain harmony between the living and the dead and uphold the spiritual and social order of the family. 6. Witch trials and blood magic. Europe. Finally, we arrive in Europe during the 15th to 18th centuries, an era dominated by fear of witches, curses, and dark magic. Across towns and villages, people feared the influence of malevolent spirits and sorcery. Some rituals involved the use of human blood or body parts, believed to amplify magical power and connect the practitioner to supernatural forces. Historical records and trial accounts describe how accused witches, or those practicing magic, were believed to use blood in spells, charms, or curses. In some confessions from Spain, witches claimed to have sucked the blood through the navel and carried the dead body to present it to the devil. In other regions, such as Poland, villagers reportedly drew the blood of an accused witch and gave it to the sick, believing it would cure them or protect them from curses. The underlying belief was that blood contained life force, and by manipulating it, practitioners could influence reality, protect themselves, or harm others. The rituals thrived under superstition, fear, and persecution, leaving a legacy of dark folklore and terrifying stories that continue to haunt European legend. They show how fear of the unknown could drive communities to acts that teetered between devotion, survival, and dark superstition. These rituals, though distant in time and place, reveal the extremes of human belief and the lengths people went to influence unseen forces. From Asia to Europe, humanity's past is shadowed by dark practices, acts that remind us the past can be far stranger and darker than we dare to imagine. If you found this journey into history chilling, subscribe to Room for Horror for more true horror stories from the past and present. And remember, some shadows never truly fade.